And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And is StreamElements dying? That's the question that I think lots of people might be asking, as they have recently launched a site, keep.streamelements.com, which is basically begging for their community for financial help. They are looking for like $300,000 a month to keep the site alive. And right now they're just going off of donations. Now, this is not a good sign for StreamElements. Okay. Now, for those of you who don't know, StreamElements it's an excellent tool. Okay. I've used them in the past. I still use them a little bit just for an alert overlay, or not overlay, but an alert tracker. It's not necessary, but I like their format. But they provide tools for streamers, hence the name StreamElements. And what they allow you to do is actually really cool. Okay, they do a number of things. One, they have a tipping service. Okay, which is primarily how they've been getting their money. So that what you could do is you can set the thing up, and while you're live, or I guess even when you're not, somebody could go to your StreamElements page and they could drop you a tip. And then on your end, obviously you get the money, but then you can have an alert and all sorts of cool stuff. All right, awesome. I think primarily even beyond the tipping service, the alerts and the overlays are what StreamElements has been especially good at, okay? Because it gives you a canvas. So basically what you can do is you can go into the website, you can set up, all right, here's an overlay scene, and you say, okay, I want a chat overlay here. This is what my alerts are going to look like, right? And you can just go down the line of all of the stuff that you want for your scene, right? For your streaming setup. And it's all done in a web-based GUI. It's actually really cool. And then it's easy to load that overlay onto OBS or Meld or whatever else you're using, so that when alerts pop, you'll get something on your stream. Okay. Very, very cool. All right. It's a great service. And they've been offering most of their service for free. Okay. This also includes a chat bot. It's a simple bot, but it'll do, it'll respond to things, which is usually what you want out of a bot. Said, hey, someone types !! merch, it's a link to your merch store and things like that. Now, speaking of merch stores, StreamElements used to have one, and it was decent. And they got rid of that service completely and partnered with Fourth Wall. Okay. They've definitely been trimming down their business here a bit lately. Now, the thing about StreamElements is, for years, I mean, they've been around. Heck, I think I started streaming in 2015. I didn't on PlayStation, so I wasn't doing any of that. I couldn't do any overlays or anything like that because, that's just, it doesn't work that way when you're streaming from a console. But 2016-ish, I think I started streaming off PC. Sometime late 2016, 2017. Had to have been 2017 because, yeah. And sorry, the ramblings of an old man. But at the time, there were two really big players for dealing with alerts and things like that. There was Streamlabs and StreamElements. Okay, Streamlabs was the big one. Now they've been a little sketchy over the years, but their product for the most part has been pretty good. When they're not plagiarizing from other software developers, they've been really good. And they do the same thing, at least with overlays. The difference is that where Streamlabs or where StreamElements will give you a single pane so that you can go and design all your stuff and then import into OBS or whatever. Streamlabs, you basically say, okay, here's this widget, and here's this widget, and here's this widget, and they each have their own address, and then you load those individually into OBS. Okay, it works fine. It's a little bit more load on your PC, but it works works great. And obviously they also have a tipping service that have had for a while. It's where they started. They also have a merch store, which, boy, they ticked me off with their merch store. It used to be free. And then you would just, like everything, they take their cut off the top, okay? And then they went back and they said, oh, no, you have to be a premium subscriber in order to get to use the merch store. And then they went back and forth and all of that stuff. It broke the merch stuff I had set up there. And, you know, given their other sketchy decisions, I stopped using Streamlabs. And I used StreamElements for a while for their merch. In fact, this hoodie, that's a problem for future me. I think I got what I was using I think I got from StreamElements merch store. So yeah, there's lots of cool. They were doing lots of cool things. All right, but it's expensive, and I think we're seeing that they're suffering from a problem of, hey, maybe they're not taking enough of donations and stuff to keep things running. Plus the fact that lots of people just don't use their site for tipping. Because StreamElements, if you're not going to be doing your overlays yourself or using something like Mix It Up, which we'll get to in a minute, really you're costing them a lot of money. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that you're not, if they're making their money off tips and you're not getting tips, then you become a cost, right? Now, this is true of every streaming service. If you're not one of the people who's actually making some money on the streaming platforms, and I think somebody did the math. If you're not in like the range where you're getting like 100 or so concurrent viewers and the roughly, I can't remember what the number of subs they had that went with that, then you're costing sites like Twitch money. That long tail of streamers, me included, are not generating enough income through subscriptions to help pay for the cost of actually providing the service. Okay. But they kind of need that. There's a whole game that has to be played with. We need new streamers. They're going to be starting with nothing because they're all hoping to be the whale. They're all hoping to be Kai Cenat or whatever, who's making millions of dollars a month because of their shows, right? Their streams. Well, StreamElements, honestly, I never hear StreamElements in the discussion of fan funding, okay? And this is I think important because there's been a lot of competition that's spun up lately, okay? So Streamlabs has had tipping for a while. StreamElements has had tipping for a while. For as long as I have really known both sites, they've had some form of tipping. Now, StreamElements has had theirs change over the years. They've rebranded it. I think it's now SE Pay or something like that. Okay, but there's also there's also a bunch of new players. Okay, so Patreon has been a thing for a while, but Patreon was mostly monthly subscriptions. Okay, so you would go and you'd set up a Patreon and say, hey, if you want to help support my channel, go to my Patreon, right? And you could subscribe monthly, and then there were perks. I know a lot of Minecraft streamers, one of their perks is they set up a community server for their community to play Minecraft on, right? Which makes sense. I'll then see them every, a couple of times a year. They'll do a stream where they just tour their community server, and that's great for their community. Okay. I think Patreon has recently started to dip their toes into tipping. I said, and Patreon's a well-known site, so people are all about Patreon. Okay, they know about Patreon, but they're not the only ones. Two others that I've actually used, one, Ko-fi, which started off as sort of a, hey, buy me a coffee type service. Like you could only tip in whatever the like $3 or whatever it was, the cost of a beverage, right? But they expanded that to, one, be a tip what you want service, and two, they set up a monthly subscription service, sort of competing with Patreon. And it was great. And they had a bunch of stuff. I think Ko-fi actually leaned in a little bit more to, I want to say like the commissions, but they were really big on also building that community around your I don't know, your streams, right? Because again, we're talking streams. Ko-fi, a lot of the chatter in the Ko-fi Discord talks about people who are doing art commissions and things like that. Okay, this is sort of competing more against Etsy in that situation. But the reality is, their live tipping service is great. They've got their own overlays and bots that can talk to, I would talk to Twitch at least. And they've got API hooks so that other things can pull that information. We're going to get to that here in a second too. Because all of this plays into the StreamElements may not belong to this world story, okay? The other site that has been really ramping up is Fourth Wall. Now, full disclosure, Fourth Wall is where I do my all of my stuff. Musicfreegaming.com, which is my main site, is at Fourth Wall. I do tips, I do merch, right? So if you go to musicfreegaming.com, it's all powered by Fourth Wall. Okay. So full disclosure, I'm not just a random podcaster, I'm a client. Okay. And I love Fourth Wall, right? They do tips, they do monthly stuff, they do merch, right? Like, remember StreamElements dropped their merch stuff and partnered with Fourth Wall? Yep. That's it. Now, I was already there, so, didn't affect me much, but it's an important bit of competition. The places where StreamElements would be making money, tips, maybe monthly subscriptions, which I don't think StreamElements ever really did, they're losing out, right? They're losing out puts it the wrong way, but the fact of the matter is there's competition in this field, right? People are going to Ko-fi and Fourth Wall and Patreon and Streamlabs for tips. Okay. Now, if they're Streamlabs, they're probably not using StreamElements at all, but you get the gist. It's what's going on. For those people using those first three, Ko-fi, Fourth Wall, Patreon, and said those aren't all of them. There are others as well, but those are the big players I've seen. If there are others, of course, drop them in the comments. I'd be thrilled to learn about new ones. But what ends up happening is now people are leaning into those services because, hey, they can bring all of their monetary stuff, at least off streaming platform monetary stuff, under one roof, right? It's the thing I liked about Fourth Wall is I could do monthly subscriptions and I could do tips. That's just what I liked about Ko-fi, actually. Because when I set up shop over on Ko-fi, I could do tips and I could do monthly subscriptions. Everything was in one place except merch. And then I moved over to Fourth Wall because I could get all of my stuff, my merch, my tips, my monthly support, all under one roof. Okay. It's great. Well, if I'm doing that, right, it's for all of the monetary stuff, plus, at least, I've got a web front end, right? I've got a website. Okay. Fabulous. It's an ugly website, but it's a website. It's ugly because of my design, not because of Fourth Wall. Fourth Wall is cool. Not quite as fully featured maybe as Wix, right? But anyway, this is not a Fourth Wall ad. You don't have to use my code or whatever. But if you're using Fourth Wall or Ko-fi or Patreon for all of your fan funding and just using StreamElements for the awesome and amazing overlay stuff that they do, StreamElements has lost their income stream, right? That's all they have left is, great, we do overlays. It costs us money to be this web service. Obviously, they're looking for $300,000 a month. Now, I don't think that $300K is their entire operating budget, okay? Because they are probably making the rest of the money up in from tips and things like that. But it also could very well be that, no, they need $300K a month to operate, and they're trying to get it from their fans through tips, the fans, their users and stuff through tips, because they're hoping then what they get from the processing for tips and things off their site will make up any difference or give them enough of a surplus, enough of a profit to help grow the business and do other things. But your only other option is to start locking things behind a paywall, which is what Streamlabs does. They lock everything behind paywalls, right? You can get your widgets are all basic, but if you want to do something more advanced, you need to use the premium stuff. Their merch store, I don't know if it still is, but it was locked behind their premium subscription. They have a clone of OBS, and actually they used to call it Streamlabs OBS, or everyone in the industry called it Slobs. And basically they took OBS uncredited because they ended up changing the name to, it's Streamlabs Desktop. Completely cut out OBS from their marketing, but it was, and you could see it, it was really obvious. It was OBS with Streamlabs skin, but then direct easy ties into their web interface for doing all of the widgets and stuff, okay? Really nice as for a user interface, lousy for compute resources on your desktop, and everything was paywalled. If you want to do anything cool, it was paywalled, even if it was free to do in OBS, okay? Now, that's... Okay, so anyway, that's something that Streamlabs or StreamElements might have to be looking into is, or do we start paywalling things? Okay. And honestly, they don't have a lot left to paywall, right? Because they've got just, if you've got the tipping stuff, which in theory should pay for itself. There's the bot. Okay, the bots should be cheap, but aren't. There's also some costs because they talk to Kick. Well, they talk to everything, but Kick is particularly annoying as far as how its API works. I was talking to the guys over at Mix It Up, and the Mix It Up bot wants to support Kick, but because of the way Kick operates, they have to set up a website or a web endpoint for the API. That's expensive. Okay. Heck, lots of the stuff that Mix It Up has to do was expensive. I was looking at they put out a post a couple of months ago because they had a massive change in their developers. Their lead developer left. Actually, they had 3 developers, 2 of them left. The third developer was mostly just doing back-end things. So it took him months to spin up. They actually pulled in another dev. Okay. But that was one of the things they're looking at is it costs a lot of money, even for the little things that Mix It Up does. And they're mostly a desktop client, right? So yeah, there are some issues, right? It's not cheap to run a web service like that. StreamerBot's the same way. And StreamerBot is what I moved to for all of my streaming stuff. And yeah, most of its desktop isn't a problem. Things like connecting to Kick is expensive, relatively speaking. At least in the aggregate, it's expensive. Now, I bring those 2 bots up in particular because one of the advantages that StreamElements had was you had you had your tips and for a while merch, but through their partnership with Fourth Wall, you still get alerts when somebody buys something, right? If somebody drops a tip or somebody buys merch or whatever, you could get your overlay. It was all easy and built in and wonderful. Okay, that's great. You can do all of that now through StreamerBot and mix it up. And in fact, both of those can talk to the webhooks. You have to do a little bit of configuration yourself when it comes to mix it up in particular on that case. But at least for the hook to like Ko-fi or Fourth Wall, StreamerBot has them built in, I guess. But that advantage that StreamElements had isn't there because you've got those. They're right there, especially with StreamerBot. The hook is right there. Now, StreamerBot's weakness is overlays. Mix It Up does great right there. Overlay stuff is not necessarily the easiest to use, but is pretty straightforward. Where StreamerBot, you better be ready to hack out some HTML and JavaScript and stuff to make your overlays work. So all of that means that the advantage that StreamElements had is gone. Okay, the Streamlabs has the same thing. They've got, of course, they're already doing the overlays, but they've got partnerships with Fourth Wall. Plus, they've got their own merch store, things like that, so that you can get those alerts there too. And frankly, the ability to tie in merch from Streamlabs stuff is amazing. And because merch is maybe not as large a cut for streamers. It's certainly not. Like if you order this Cheese Monkeys t-shirt from musicfreegaming.com, right? It costs 20 something bucks at Fourth Wall. I get maybe $5. Okay. If you just wanted to support me and tip me that 20 bucks, it's better for me financially, but you also don't get a cool shirt. There is nothing keeping people locked into StreamElements anymore. Now, I'm all for avoiding vendor lock-in, but what do they do? Okay. What we're seeing with StreamElements, I think, may also be a symptom of what's happening in the streaming industry at large. Okay. Stream stats have been going down to some extent. Okay. Now, Twitch has been seeing, I think they're down like 10% of watch hours and average viewers, though their peak viewers is up. This is all data from Sully Gnome. I think you can go back and check. Zach Bussey posted some of this stuff on his various accounts, but I went and verified this at Sully Gnome, and yeah, they're down like 9.5% over the last year. Okay, there were two streaming sites that spun up when Mixer died. You had Glimish and Trovo. Now Glimish died in 2023, so it's been dead for a while. Trovo just a couple of months ago, has said it's not going to allow new streamers to stream or new accounts to stream. If you've been streaming there, you're good to go. You can keep streaming. But new streams, or they're not looking for new streamers. They're shifting focus or something. Now, Trovo it was launched by Tencent apparently. If my 30 seconds of research is accurate, the same thing they started with when Mixer shut down. Now, Tencent has cash to support it, but I don't know how much they actually are. Maybe Trovo is trying to live off its own income stream, which is wonderful for Trovo, at least on the surface. But are they still going? What are they doing? Right? There's a streaming service, DLive. I didn't find their stats, but I think it's a sign that they may be having issues with other streamers, like game streams and stuff. They opened up their platform to adult content for streaming. Okay, maybe they're trying to make a play for those sweet OnlyFans dollars, right? I don't know. Okay, but I think it's a sign that there's something not quite right with these streaming landscape right now. Now, YouTube, which is where my main channel is, I stream on YouTube. I also stream on Twitch and Kick. We could talk about Kick in a minute. But YouTube's actually making money. But YouTube's main focus isn't live streaming, it's video. It's long form or short form video. And live streaming is also there. Okay, yes, they do live streaming of some major events, right? I think they've been streaming some football games. Right, there are other huge events that go live on YouTube, okay? Game streaming is, they don't have the, at least of the game streaming, okay? If we just focus on that for a minute, game streaming is not at the level of what Twitch is. Overall streaming, they blow Twitch right out of the water, okay? Because people are streaming lots of things on YouTube. They're streaming podcasts, they're streaming, various events, there's all sorts of this stuff. Gaming's only a small slice of YouTube's pie. Well, YouTube is great. I love YouTube, but I don't know if their streaming stats are enough for the game side of things, which is mostly where StreamElements is getting their users from. Again, we're talking about Twitch. Mostly Twitch is gamers. It's not exclusively gamers. There's lots of people who do just chatting and other things, right? But it's still a thing, right? What's going on? Is this whole streaming landscape going down, right? Is it contracting? And if so, that means there's going to be a lot fewer people to use services like StreamElements. So they could be caught up in that. And honestly, it's not great, but I think there is a certain reality here that I could see within a year, StreamElements closing up shop, which would be too bad because they're a great site. But either they close up shop or they switch to a subscription model of some sort or other. Okay. Now, as I said, I use StreamElements a little bit. Okay. I said I used StreamerBot. It was, which was great. And I multi-stream using a service called BeamStream. It's beamstream.gg. And it allows me to stream to multiple platforms at once, okay? And there's similar sites. Restream does stuff like that too. And I would stream to YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. Now, Kick is weird because they're fully subsidized by Stake, which is an online gambling. They're a casino. It's an online casino. And Kick was, they spun it up for those streamers who got kicked off of Twitch for gambling. And gambling on stream. And Kick said, oh, this is perfect. Or Stake said, this is perfect. They spun up Kick as a Twitch clone. And I said, yeah, gamble to your heart's content. And there were some other issues, and that's another show. In fact, I talked about Kick a couple of times on the podcast. You can go back, check it out. But when I started streaming to Kick, I used StreamElements to keep track of alerts because nothing I was using at the time would talk to it. Like Mix It Up still doesn't talk to Kick. It's on their roadmap. And I'm looking forward to the time when they can roll that out live because Mix It Up is such an amazing bot that it'd be great to have for those people over there. StreamerBot finally added Kick support with their 1.0 release, which is great. So I have zero reason to be using StreamElements for talking to Kick anymore. Okay, Streamlabs has been talking to Kick for a long time. They actually had a sweet back-end deal where they were using the non-public APIs and stuff like that. It was weird. But I just use it I just use StreamElements for their alerts. Not the overlays. They just have an event view. Well, after what they were doing, and I realized that, you know what? I already have all of this with StreamerBot. Do I need to even keep using StreamElements for this? And so I've been running a test for the last week or so of running alerts through, or just, again, my alerts have always been through StreamerBot, but that dashboard look of how here's the things that are happening. I'm now focused on, hey, am I getting that what I need from StreamerBot? Do I need to keep using StreamElements? And part of that is a self-defense thing because, hey, I think they're going to be dead in a year, or they're going to go subscription model and I'll just stop using them because I'm already paying subscriptions to Beam and to StreamerBot so that I can do what I'm doing, right? So yeah, it's a mess. And yeah, one of my favorite things about markets in general is that creative destruction of, hey, somebody was there, they can't keep up with what's happening in the market, they die and other companies take their place and you get a better market. And actually, honestly, we are seeing that, right? We're seeing a lot more sites grow up with the fan funding stuff. Let's say with Ko-fi and Fourth Wall, and Patreon, and we're seeing the alerts that StreamElements was providing through bots like StreamerBot and Mix It Up. So they may end up just falling by the wayside as more tools with more flexibility take their place. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I really hope StreamElements keeps going because they've been awesome, but I think the reality is, I think they may end up caught up in the chaos that is the current streaming space. So let me know what you think. Maybe I'm completely wrong and off base here. I hope so. I want StreamElements to succeed, but I think the reality is they're not going to. But let me know what you think. Drop a comment here on YouTube or on Spotify. Let me know what you're thinking. And until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Gaming signing off.